Morning from Brazil, people. I hope that you're all doing good. If you don't know me, you will get to know me soon. We will just wait more 7 minutes to start and start it exactly at my 9 a.m. Four minutes to start. People are still joining, but before they join, let's start some interaction. I want to know how you're doing. So if you want to type in the chat, if you're good, send hello like this, like a thumbs up. Or if you're not good, you can send just a thumb down. It's fine. I want to see how you're doing. Cool. I hope to see all thumbs up. Amazing. Good morning, Daniel. Nice to see you here. I shine bright. It's because it's super sunny today, but it's also very cold. And when I say very cold, forgive me, it's 19 Celsius degrees, but I'm Brazilian, so I'm allowed to say that 19 degrees, it's cold. My banana with cinnamon for breakfast? No. Today I had the scrambled eggs. I'm not having breakfast with you today, but I'm having my tea. Which tea? It's cinnamon with apple. Good morning. Yeah, it's super good. Hello, Felix. Long time no see, no talk, actually.
Ni idea, pero pues les pagan en dólares canadienses. Me voy a ir bajando.
Hello, Eduardo.
Oi.
How are you?
Bom, você?
Yo estoy muy bien también. Okay, guys, it's 9 o'clock on sharp in my clock, so I will start right now. Let me just start recording because a lot of people asking me to do that. Amazing. Welcome to the introduction to AEPP and APIP. This call is extremely important for me. Why? Because I've been working with ISAC International to the creation of this document for so long. And it was a huge process, but also an amazing experience that I had with my ICB team and also in synergy with ISAC International. And I am super glad to be here introducing you to the purpose of these two documents. But before going to the content of the session itself, let me introduce myself for you because I don't know if you know me. And it's going to be very quick introduction. But if you still have any curiosity about who am I or what do I do for life and also in ISAC, you feel free to contact me anytime. Well, my name is Karina Brunoro. I am the current ICB chair. And I am also ICB chair elected for the next term. And if I had to say a phrase that I really like, and I think that is super connected to what I do in the organization right now, I would say, get ready to face our Pandora box. Why? Because being part of ICB, it's amazing because you get to know all of the things that are happening in real in your organization. You get in contact with customers, you get in contact with LC level until ISAC international level, but mainly what we are dealing with are problems. So every time that we face a problem, we are there to try to solve it in some way. And we work with that through three different perspectives. The first one would be customer support directly. The second one would be auditing. And the third one would be education. So my third point of view in the organization, they are related to how can we enhance our processes to make sure that we are delivering actually good experiences to the network. And that's what I say, get ready to face our Pandora box because we're always dealing with maybe the dark side of the organization and trying to use all the knowledge while facing these things to enhance the processes in ISAC. But still, who am I and what do I do for life? I am from Brazil, as I already said in the beginning of the call. I joined ISAC in January 2015. So I have been in ISAC for 5 years until now. And I'm really proud of that. I learned a lot and it's amazing. And I'm still going to continue in ISAC for at least one more year. I'm finishing my career as ICB chair in the end of 2021. And my life outside ISAC, yes, I do have a life outside ISAC and I'm super proud of that. And I am the head of marketing in one of the IT startups in my country. And I really like that. It's amazing. So I can balance two different works at the same time. Cool. So this is me, very quick, because I'm not going to take time talking about myself in here. Today, we're going to talk about APIP and AEPP. Some alignments for this call. we have two channels that is going on right now, and there are people in Zoom with me, and there are also people watching the stream on YouTube. How am I going to make sure that I'm getting all the questions? I kindly ask you to use this link. You will see that this is a form that you can submit your questions. And in the end of the call, I will open the form and then I will start asking the questions that are related to this call that you are attending right now. I'm not going to answer questions during the presentation. I will save this space for the end. And also the question and answer part will be recorded. So if you want to leave when the session ends, you can also watch the recorded part of questions and answer in the end later on. That's it. This link will be available in all slides. I added the link in a small part of the slide, so you won't forget that. So you can use your phone, you can use also your computer, whatever you want, but please don't type questions in the chat either on YouTube, on Zoom, because I won't see that. I don't even have the chat opened in here. I will open that in the end of the call only. I hope that we're all aligned. So let's start. This call today is an introduction to the two main documents that ISEC is going to use right now. What we are going to talk today is a brief introduction to the two documents. I will tell you why we have two documents right now, what is the difference between the two documents, and what we can, how we should use them. The second one is the objective of each document, like objective of it, it's pretty okay. Applicability, because it's different, the applicability of AEPP and APIP, the structure of the two documents, then the main changes in each document, and you will see what exactly changed from XPP, from APIP to AEPP, and the last one will be a space for questions and answers. Another alignment that I would like to do is, this is an introduction. You know that we are starting a week as an education cycle, and tomorrow, for an example, we will have a call for all the policies applied to global volunteer. Probably you will have questions that are very specific ones. And if I receive a question in this call right now that is super specific, I will ask you to attend the other calls that will go deeper related to the product itself. This is an introduction. I will summarize all the things that you need to know to get used to the documents before going to the other calls. Okay, before starting, what is ICB? I don't know who is in here that knows what ICB is or what ECB is. And since this call is available for all levels of the organization, so this is a quick introduction to what is the board that I'm being responsible for in ISEC. Well, the purpose of ECB is to support the governance of the ISEC portfolio and ensure customer centricity by guaranteeing operational and ethical compliance in every ISEC activity. What does it mean? It means that my team is responsible to govern the ISEC portfolio, and you will see that by ISEC portfolio, I'm not talking only about global volunteer, global talent, and global teacher. There are other things inside of ISEC portfolio that we are responsible to. Plus, ensure customer centricity. What is customer centricity? Guarantee that ISEC is taking steps and also deciding with a decision-making process that puts our customer in the center of everything that we do. Last one but not least, operational and ethical compliance in ISEC. So we have our policies, and that's actually what this call is about, for you to get to know the new policies of ISEC and to make sure that ISEC is complying with the policies and in an operational way or in an ethical way. ICB has the final decision-making power on all cases pertaining to the APIP and AEPP. So every time that you're facing a quality case with your customer, the final decision-making power, if the case for some reason reached to ICB level, that would be at international level, we are the final decision-making body, let's say that will say this is gonna happen with your EP and this is gonna happen with your entity and with the other entity involved. We are a global board, an independent board that works in synergy with ISEC International. ECCB has decision-making power on business development, partnership, and ethical cases, except when the decision could have direct financial or membership-related consequences, not stated on Global Compendium or in the annex of compensation policies and compliance metrics. So this is just an observation that supports the previous thing that I said. Now we can start. Now that you're all on board with what is ICB and why ICB is being the one responsible to educate everyone about the documents. How it all started to have two new documents in ISAC and to say RIP to XPP. We received a mandate in an international conference, and the mandate said, mandate ISAC International and ICB to review, research, and create internal product policies, as well as deliver a report on the required structural evolutions of the governance systems, including but not limited to XPP and Compendium. This should be presented and legislated in IC 2020 to be implemented by IPM 2021. This mandate was part or kind of generate a project for ISAC International that ICB was also responsible. And the name of the project was Product Governance Project. Why did we receive this mandate and why did we decide to work on this mandate and to reshape the documents that ISAC has nowadays? There are some questions that we needed to answer. There are some reasons behind it, but I tried to summarize all of them in three main points. The first point was governance of all ISAC exchanges needed to evolve. If you had the opportunity to attend IC, in some of the sessions of the conference, guys, remember to mute yourselves, okay? I see some noise behind, but remember to mute yourself. So in some sessions of the conference, you had the opportunity to understand that the way that we were growing and the way that we were delivering experiences, it was not in the best way and it was not that sustainable. So how we should enhance our processes and change everything that we are doing to make sure that we are growing in a more sustainable way and that we are running our operations in a better way. Not better way only for the customers itself, but even for the future of ISAC. And the solution that one of the solutions, of course, that we found for this was to evolve the governance system of the products that ISAC is working with. The second thing is that the need for evolving the governance system and the way that we were working with our products was mentioned in the output of the internal auditor report as a risk for our organization. So we receive every twice a year a report from the internal audit. An internal audit is an external person that works directly with ISAC International, with the MCPs, to understand what is going on in an international level of our organization. And on her report, we received that we needed to evolve our governance system for the products because the way that we were working, it wouldn't be sustainable for ISAC in a long way. And the third one, but not least, there are other projects happening in an international level that they would need to be added in the documents. So we would have to change the document somehow because there are new projects happening. For an example that you already all know, I hope so, the remote feature project. So this is something that it's already happening in the organization and we would have to add, it would be a big change in the document. So if we are already adding some new things and changing the documents, why not reshaping it as a whole? In the end, the result of this project, this mandate, and all the research that we did is that we came up with two new documents for the organization, AEPP and APIP. What is AEPP? ISAC Exchange Program Policies. So AEPP is a document focused on our stakeholders. It contains rights, roles, obligations, responsibilities, procedures, and protocols related to ISAC activities. AEPP, we could say that it's for external people. And APIP, as the opposite, is ISAC Portfolio Internal Policies. It's the all content that you have on AEPP, plus internal processes that ISAC must comply with while promoting and delivering its activities. What we have on APIP is all the content that we have on AEPP plus internal things that only IASECers need to know. I will give you an example. Why our EP needs to know the process for a break realization. When I say a process for a break realization is that who should request to who and how are we going to proceed with that inside of the EXPA. They need to know other things. They need to know when they can request a break realization, what is their responsibility while breaking a realization, but they don't need to know exactly what is the process internally that we will take to officialize a break realization. This is one of the examples that I have that are internal processes that our stakeholders don't need to know. And in the end, why we decided to create two different documents instead of only one. First thing is the document that we had XPP is not that customer friendly. It's super huge. And I know that the documents are not supposed to be like that customer friendly or something like that, because it's a lot of policies that people will need to read and need to comply with. But in the end, customer reading XPP, there were a lot of things that didn't make sense for them because it was mixed what ISX should do plus with the customer should know plus what a lot of things that it doesn't make kind of sense for a customer to understand. And the second point would be that it contains a lot of information not necessary for the customer. So again, we took this step and we decided to go for this action, thinking about the customer in the center, being customer centric. That's it. That very summarized. This is AEPP and this is APIP. Okay, Karina, I understand that you want to make my life a bit harder. Do I need to check two documents now? I wasn't even to get used to XPP, and now I will have to check two documents at the same time. And the answer for you, I as Zeker, is no. You don't need to check two documents at the same time. Why you don't need to check two documents? Because APIP equal AEPP plus internal processes for IASECers. If we have APIP equal the other document plus more things, I advise you to focus on APIP. If you have to take any consultancy or if you want to check anything in the document, check APIP because you are an IASECer and you understand that you will understand a lot of things that are written in the document. And you can be sure that everything that is on AEPP is also on APIP. AEPP is for you to send to your opportunity provider, to your exchange participant, to any stakeholder of IASEC, because the way that things are written inside of AEPP, it's more talking to a person that is not an IASECer. That's the main difference between the two documents. Now that you're aligned with the introduction, let's start with the objective of each one. AEPP is for exchange participants and OPs to understand and acknowledge their rights, obligations, and responsibilities before, during, and after an IASIC exchange. It's also for them to acknowledge what to expect from an IASIC exchange experience, and also the consequences of violating any policy of the document, as well as the procedure to be followed when a stakeholder does not comply with the document. So this is everything that they will have very summarized in their document. For us, IASECers, for IASECers to understand the minimum of each experience and initiative inside the IASEC portfolio, for IASECers to understand their role and responsibility when it comes to the preparation and execution of each phase and experience inside the IASEC portfolio, for ICB and ECBs to govern and ensure compliance to the IASEC internal portfolio policies. So you will see that inside of XPP, there are new things, inside of APIP, there are new things that you won't see inside of AEPP. New things, as for an example, we have a table with all the violations that can happen as an internal processes while delivering an exchange for our customer. Our stakeholders, they don't need to understand what are all the violations because they already have the policies. But we do need to have all the violations and how IASEC is going to be organized internally to deal with these violations if we identify any of them in an LC, in an MC, or I don't know, in any activity that we are delivering as ISAC. What is the applicability of the two documents? AEPP, this document is mandatory for every EP, OP, ISAC entity, and any other party involved with an ISAC exchange at all stages, from contract signature until after the end of the exchange. Again, it's extremely important that all membership from ISAC understand that we have APP and that we have APIP and that they know the policies inside of the document, because we kind of know how to deliver an exchange. But what we know is exactly what we have in our document or no? Are the practices that we are having right now complying with the policies that we have in the document or no? So that's the importance of the document. APIP applicability, it's the AEPP plus internal processes. So it's applicable to everyone and focused on ISAC entities. That's it. Let's go for the structure of the documents now. AEPP structure first. Everything that you will see in here, it's divided by colors. So if you see something that is green, it's totally new. We didn't have it before. If there is something that is orange, it's modified, mostly wording, but can be some things that are new, but it's basically the same, just change it a bit. The last one, I don't know what this color is, I will call it blue. Some new and some modified clauses. So it can be new clauses added, or others just modify it. So it's not that big deal too, but it's different. The first part that we have on AEPP is the ISAC exchange program policies. So you will see definition, applicability, and liability of all the things related to exchange in ISAC. Second one will be the definitions. So what is a definition of an approval? Realization. You will see the definition of the standards, LDA, leadership, anything. The definitions will be all there. This third one is ISAC exchange programs, but this is new and some other modified. Why? Because we will have the definition of the programs that we are working with, the program minimums. So what is the minimum for an entity to run a GV, a GTA, or a GTE, for an example? Criteria for it to be considered an exchange participant. So what is the criteria for a young person to travel with ISAC, and what is the criteria for an opportunity provider to open an opportunity with ISAC? The fourth one is ISAC exchange policies. So everything related to when can I break a realization? When can I break an approval? What happens with me if this kind of things happens? What is the part of compensation? How should I be compensated? So all of these things, it's inside of these documents, and you will have general policies, policies before approval, remote feature protocol that is extremely new, policies from approval until realization, policies from realization until completion, and finish realization earlier. That is a new status. I'm gonna go brief by this status in this call, but please join the other calls to understand better what is this. Then we have the extension protocol if someone wants to extend the opportunity. And finally, we have the complaints. Complaint part is extremely important for our customers, because if anything goes wrong and in a way that is different that it was expected from them, they can go to the complaint part and they can understand how to proceed with the complaint part. But not only important for our customers, it's also important for ISACers, because it's our role to be there, our responsibility to be there and to support our customers. It doesn't matter if you're OGX or if you're ICX. It's your job to be there to support the customers. And if by any chance you're facing a complaint, all the process for you to proceed with the complaint is inside of this part. And we also have annexes, because there are some things that they don't fit inside of the document. So we decided to have an annex specifically for these topics. And for AEPP, we have 2 annexes that we think it's important for our stakeholders to know. First annex is the ISAC anti-harassment and violence protocol. If an EP is facing any type of harassment situation or a violence situation, they can go to the annex and they will see what is considered a harassment for ISAC, a violence for ISAC, what is the process that they should go through, and who they should contact to proceed with the protocol that we have. And the second one is the compensation table. If they are facing any problem with ISAC, if we are going through a situation of complaint, what are my rights in terms of being compensated financially? We have a table that explains everything that the person has the right to receive. That's the structure of AEPP. Oof, cool. The structure of APIP now. I'm not gonna go one by one the way that I did before, because as you know, the content of APIP is APP plus internal processes. So this is the structure. Of course, since it's all the document for all the information from the other document plus new information, you can expect a document that is bigger, that have more pages than the other one. This is the structure. So we have ISAC portfolio internal policies, definition, proposed applicability, glossary of terms and acronyms. So everything that we should know, because you all know that ISAC love acronyms. So finally, we can have an explanation better of our acronyms in there. Two things that are new. Brand policies. We didn't have it inside of the documents before, but right now we do have brand policies. It's very simple, but it's basically saying follow the blue book. If you don't know the blue book, ask your MC, ask your ECB, because it's extremely important for you to be compliant with the brand policies of the organization. Then the fourth one would be platform principles. Platform principles mainly related to the platforms that we are using to promote the exchange and also to execute our activities as ISAC. You will see that there are a lot of things related to POP, YOP, EXPO itself, and it's extremely important for you to check that. Then ISAC portfolio. We're going to talk a bit about ISAC portfolio, but I also advise you to go there, because if you think that ISAC works as a portfolio only with the 3 products that we have, it's not that way. We have 3 phases in our portfolio: EWA, ELD, and LLC. And the product, it's just something inside of one of the phases that we have in our portfolio. The exchange program policies, that is the same as external document. Basically, everything that you have in the other document is inside of the exchange program policies. ER principles, the external relations, it was changed a bit, but there are a lot of things related to how we are dealing with our externals in terms of partnerships. Governance system, we're going to talk a lot about governance system in this call, because it's something that is quite new and we needed to evolve. And that's actually the main reason that we decided to go through the project of writing new documents in ISAC. And last one but not least, ISAC safety protocols. That is the subject for our last call of the education cycle. And it's related to the safety guidelines that we should take in consideration while working as any ISAC activity, not only while delivering an exchange, but while going through a conference, while delivering a global village, for an example, or any activity that is promoted by ISAC. And we don't have only 2 annexes, we have 8 annexes for this part of the document. And we also have anti-harassment and violence protocol, the compensation table, but all the others, they are only internal. Whistleblowing protocol, it's the protocol for you to submit any type of whistleblowing to ECCB, so we can, as responsible to guarantee operational and ethical compliance. So whistleblowing is one of the forms that we have to identify possible violations in the organization. Compliance metrics and sanctions. So we have a table with all the violations that can happen in the organization and what is going to happen with an LC or with an MC if we identify those violations. Official case application template, EP acceptance notes, exchange program job questionnaire, and opportunity posting guidelines. These opportunity posting guidelines, I would like to highlight in here, that is something new, is an annex that you will see a document guiding you to open an opportunity on EXPA, because there are a lot of problems that we are receiving from customers, because it's related to expectation settings, but it's also related to poor opportunities being opened on EXPA. So you have a guideline right now to make sure that your opportunity is actually good enough and it understandable from the customer side. That's the structure of the document. Now let's go to the main changes and a bit deeper in some specific topics. But again, you will see and you will understand not only the main changes, but everything related to each product that we are working on the next calls. I will go brief in some things that I believe that are important for you to know. Finish realization earlier. That's a new status that we have in ISAC right now. Why do we have this status and what is this status? This was something that we realized during the coronavirus crisis. What happened actually? We were having a lot of customers realizing, and they decided to go back to their countries, or they decided to finish their realization with Isaac, not only from because they were having a problem with the exchange because of a global crisis that they wanted to be back to their families. And the opportunity provider was okay with that. The AP was okay with that, but it was not possible for them to finish their realization because they needed to comply with the duration they were supposed to have. And instead of breaking their realization, that was actually what happened during this crisis, they can request right now, and when I say they, is actually the Isaac side. Isaac can request to finish the realization earlier. And that means that NEP will not have their status on Expo as realization broken. They were supposed to finish on December, but they are finishing in November right now because something happened and the OP and the EP are okay with that. So going by the book, what we have inside of the documents by finish realization earlier. Finished realization earlier means that the ISAC exchange terminated earlier than the stipulated dates, but it's still considered a finished ISAC exchange instead of broken realization. Why? Sometimes the EP and OP agreed in finishing the realization without any violation on the documents, and the duration is more than the minimums of the product. With this, the AP can still be considered finished and take his or her certificate of ISAC exchange. Right now, I don't know if you know, but if you break a realization, the AP don't have the automatic certificate of an ISAC exchange that is generated on EXPA, and this EP cannot become a completed. But if the EP requests to finish the realization earlier, of course, that there is a protocol for that, that you should talk to your ECB, the ECB should talk to ICB, and we will evaluate the situation and we will check if this EP should be broken realization or finished realization earlier. But this EP in the end, if it's agreed that he can be a finished realization earlier, he can even become a completed in the end. This is super new. It's starting. It's already working right now. So if you are facing a type of situation like this, you can request it to your ECB and the ECB will request to ICB. ISAC portfolio. That what the thing that I was talking, that is not only the products that we have. So inside of ISAC portfolio, we have three things. The first thing is EWA. What is EWA? Engagement with ISAC. Activities to promote ISAC. They must be powered by ISAC, following Blue Book and respecting the principles. So inside of ISAC portfolio, the first phase that we have would be activities that ISAC is promoting, that ISAC is delivering to promote the brand. And that is a protocol for you to define the activities that will be considered EWA. There are a lot of minimums that you need to follow to make sure that your activity is actually complying with the policies of EWA. The second one is the ELD. What is ELD? Experiential leadership development. And inside of the phase of ELD, you have the three products that we work today: Global Talent, Global Teacher, and Global Volunteer. This is what everyone knows. This is the product that we work in Isaac. And the third one is LLC. What is LLC? Lifelong connection. And the minimums for lifelong connection, they are quite simple. They need to be activities delivered by Isaac that are related to alumni to Isaac, alumni to alumni, and alumni to the world. If you want to understand better these things, you just go to the Isaac portfolio, LLC, and then there will be a part. What is alumni to Isaac? And then you're gonna read alumni to alumni, and then you're gonna read. It's explained very simple in the document. Something interesting. There are no products legislated for EWA or LLC. Before, we used to say that a product or an activity very common in EWA, for an example, would be the local volunteer. We don't have local volunteer in our internal documents now, but it's not because we don't have the local volunteer does not mean that you cannot work with this. It's different. We kind of have EWA as a general thing that it's up to MC or up to LC to define the activities that they will promote with ISAC that are under EWA. If you want to still work with local volunteer, you can do that. If you want to go for global host can be an example of EWA. You can go for that. But the thing that you need to pay attention is the activities to be considered EWA, they need to be following the protocol and the minimums inside of the document. The minimums, they are quite simple, but I advise you to check that if you want to go for any activity related to EWA. This is the same thing for LLC. We don't have specific things legislated in the document for LLC, but we have the minimums. So you can create anything you would like to, but make sure that the things that you're delivering as LLC are complying with the minimums of the documents. And as I said, that activities must be defined by each MC or LC, but to be considered EWA or LLC, you must comply with the policies of the document. Program minimums, that is cool. I love it to understand that. I remember when I was working directly with exchanges, and honestly, if I had that before in my onboarding to ISAC, in my even selection process, or as a member, if I learned this like written, someone showed me in a paper, I would feel more prepared to work with the product. And that's actually what I hope that is happening with all of you right now, because you know exactly what you need to do to deliver a GV and a GTA or GTE. For the minimums of the product, I would just mention them, and you can ask all the questions related to it in a specific calls for the product. But for GV, what we have, opportunities must be related to one of the SDGs. Opportunity must include the development of skills in a foreign environment. Internships should include all elements of inner and outer journey. EP must be supervised by OP. Minimum of 6 weeks and maximum of 8 weeks. That means we cannot run global volunteer for less than 6 weeks. Opportunity provider or third part should cover accommodation during full duration. So no way for you to deliver a GV if your opportunity provider or anyone is offering accommodation for your EP. A minimum of 25 hours per week being worked or a maximum of 40 hours per week. And that's what we have for GV. So for you to run GV, you need to comply with these things. There are other things related to GV that are principles. Those are the minimums. For you to run GV, you need to comply with these things. For GTA and GTE, opportunities must be related to business administration, finance, marketing, IT, engineering, teaching, or business development. Opportunity must include the development of skills in a foreign environment. Internship should include all elements of inner and outer journey. EP must be supervised by the OP. For GTA, it's a minimum of 6 weeks and maximum of 78 weeks. For GTE, it's a minimum of 9 weeks and maximum of 78 weeks. For GTAs, between 6 or 8 weeks. The opportunity provider should cover accommodation or salary. So if you're running a GTA with a short-term duration, you can align with your opportunity provider for them to cover accommodation or salary, cover both. For GTAs longer than 9 weeks, opportunity provider must provide the salary. So the option to choose between accommodation or salary is just for a short-term duration of your internship. If you're gonna have it for longer than 9 weeks, the opportunity provider should provide salary. And considering the global teacher, the minimum is 9 weeks. What does it mean? That for global teacher is mandatory to have salary in all opportunities. You don't have the option to choose between accommodation or salary for global teacher. This option is only for global talent if you're working with short-term internships. And next one, let's go for the principles. You just understood the minimums, and let's go for the principles now. What is the principles? What are the characteristics for someone to say that this is a global talent and this is a global volunteer. ISEC cannot be the opportunity provider, so you cannot create an opportunity with ISEC. There must have a contract signed before the open on EXPA. So for you to open an opportunity of GTA and GTE on EXPA, you need to have the contract signed with your OP. This will be part of the audit system that will be performed by ECB and also by ICB. So please don't open opportunities on EXPA without having the contract. Third, there must have a contract signed before the approved on EXPA, contract minimums defined. This is the same idea, but for OGX right now. Don't approve your EP on EXPA if you don't have the contract signed with them. And by the contract, I say, even if you're giving the exchange for free for them, like zero, you got it because it was a gift from the LC for you, you need to have a contract with it, saying that the fee is zero. It doesn't matter, it's not related to payment, and please don't draw on my screen. Organization on EXPA should be the same as the real exchange. We faced some problems with that because the opportunity provider on EXPA was one, and then the actually what was the EP was working in a different organization. This cannot happen. The dates on EXPA should be the same dates on the exchange. This is tricky because there are a lot of things happening on EXPA right now that is violating this part. Our customers, they are realizing in a time range that is different than what we have on EXPA. And those things need to be the same. So if you're having any problem to align the date of realization of your EP on EXPA and what's actually happening in the reality, talk to your ECB because they know, and if they still don't know, they will know soon how to proceed with these changes. Opportunity must follow the latest guideline. As I mentioned, we have a new annex for that, so they must follow the guideline in the annex. EPs cannot be charged for TN fees. So for ICX, you cannot charge EPs when they realize to your country, if it is a GTA or GTE. The only thing that they should pay is for OGX. You cannot charge EPs for GTA and GTE. If you're working with global host, you must sign an MOU. What is the MOU? Is a memorandum of understanding. It's kind of a letter, a contract or something. It's a memorandum that says that ISEC and the host, they are working together and they are following the minimums that should be defined by the LC or something, or they are okay and complying with the experience that they are delivering together. And last one but not least is a binding contract if needed between EP and OP. What is that? And this is something new. The EP, when they are realizing in the company, they must, nowadays, they just have one agreement that is between ISEC to the company and ISEC to the EP. What does this new contract say? It says that there is some, they need to have a document between the AP and the OP when they start their synergy, their relationship together with the exchange. This contract cannot go against and cannot be different than everything that is written in the opportunity portal, because this can cause a lot of problems. What we are going to take into consideration is what is written on the opportunity portal, is what the EP agreed while going for the approval. But everything that they agreed while going for the approval need to be agreed again between EP and OP signature. That's something new. For GV, what you have as principles, everything that you have for GTA and GTE that is in black, plus more things. Entities must charge opportunity providers or have a plan to start charging opportunities providers until 2023. That means that the future of ISEC is that for us to open opportunities with NGO, we will have to charge the NGO for the opportunity or a third part that will cover the price model of GV. What does it mean? You can find any sponsor for your NGO that they will pay it for you, or you will have to charge the NGO. This is not something to be implemented right now, but every MC, they have to have a plan, because from 2023 on, this is how we are going to work with GV. Why this thing? Because this is one of the actions that we are taking to make sure that we are running GV in a more sustainable way. Second thing, if they have the price, if your MC already have the price model for GV, The TN fee that you're gonna charge for your EP cannot be 30% or more, cannot be more than 30% than this price. That means if your MC price model is $1,000, you can only charge a maximum of $300 for your EP as a TN fee. You cannot charge more than that. This is quite confusing. There are a lot of things going on behind it, like the MCs are still working in the plan and so on. So if you have doubts on how this is going to be executed on your entity, go to your MC and they will explain you. But don't worry about this right now, because actually what most of the entities are working with is to have a plan to comply with this thing by 2023 on. This is about the future of the organization. Then the TN fee should have its majority covered in accommodation only, because the purpose for you to charge a TN fee from your exchange participant, it's for you to support them. And how are you going to support them? By covering accommodation with the maximum that you're charging from them. You can use the amount for other things too, for an example, pickup or welcome kit or whatever, but the majority should go for accommodation. Complaints. Okay, complaints right now. EPs, what are the changes in the complaints? EPs can submit a complaint if the violation happened in a maximum of 12 months time range. If the violation was older than 12 months, the LC or ECB can deny to proceed with the case internally. What does it mean? If I had an exchange in January 2019 and I want to open a case with ISEC right now, I cannot do that, because my violation happened 1 year, more than 1 year ago. So I cannot do that. So the maximum time range that I can open a case with ISEC is 1 year. Let me get my charger, otherwise I will leave you all alone. Sorry for that. I just got, yes, not leaving you alone anymore. Second part of complaints. Reimbursements will only be possible with receipts. So if your EP is not taking like a record of all the receipts, there is a huge chance for, if they go for a complaint procedure, they won't be able to receive their compensation. Why are we doing that? Because there are a lot of cases that we are dealing with that the EPs are not being able to prove their expenses. And it's quite unfair for us to go online and take the average of cost of living and accommodation and other thing for define the final amount that the EP should be reimbursed. So please align with your EPs that they need to have the receipts. If they don't have the receipts of their expenses, it will be super hard for us to calculate the final amount of reimbursement if by any chance or any case it's needed for the EP. But yeah, ECB level, if you're having a complaint right now and you need to solve it in the stage that we have in the documents, we have 3 stages. We have the LC stage, ECB stage, and ICB stage. LC stage, it's the same time range. We increased a bit the time of our ECB level. Before on XPP, it was 4 days. So the ECBs had 4 days to solve the issue in their level. Right now, they have 1 whole week. They have 7 days to solve the issue in their level. The ECBs cannot reopen cases after it gets closed and confirmed by both entities. So if we have a complaint in ECB level, they agree together that this is the situation that we're going to follow. This is the reimbursement amount, and those are the next steps. And if both entities agree and they have written proof of agreement, they cannot reopen the case because something new came up. They already agreed, and if something new came up, that means that they didn't have the information before, or it was not able, they took a decision without having all the proper information at the time. And some guidelines to calculate the final amount for reimbursed were added in the document. So we also faced some problems in defining the total amount to give for an EP if he needs to be reimbursed. Right now we have a protocol to proceed while calculating the final amount for EPs. The timeline for EPs and OPs to inform ISEC that they are not going to be able to go or to host an exchange from approval to realization. What is that? We know that there are some, sorry for the word, but crazy EPs that they sign a contract with us, but they suddenly like go away, or they turn out as a ghost. We cannot reach to them anymore, or even they are still there, they are answering us, but 1 week before traveling they say, hey, I cannot travel anymore. And the reason that they are saying is because um it's not stated on ISAC. So it's a reason, for an example, because my exams in the university changed the date, or because my vacation they changed it because my university schedule. These kind of things that we don't have inside of our documents. So what we did to solve this problem, we have a specific timeline for EPs and OPs to inform us that they're not going to be able to travel anymore or to host the exchange anymore. And let me see. Yes, I have the timeline in here. For a global volunteer, they need to tell us a maximum of 28 days before the realization day if their reason is not complying with what we have in the documents. If they say it 28 days before the realization day that they cannot travel by any reason, it is fine. They can just be readjusted on a new approval or any other thing, and they will be liable for reimbursement for any case. But if they say that after, like, for an example, if I tell ISAC that I'm not going to be able to travel 10 days before the realization day, it's not going to be possible for me to receive any type of compensation because I am violating this thing. And this needs to be extremely aligned with our customers because they need to know that. They need to know what is their deadline to say to Isaac, I'm not going to travel anymore. Then for GTA, it's different. It's 55 days, 56 days. And GTE, it's also 56 days. Why the time for global talent is longer than global volunteer? There are some reasons behind it. Because opportunity provider, when we talk about the global talent and global teacher, they are actually more demanding in terms of contract, in terms of legal processes than an NGO. And also because an opportunity for a global talent and a global teacher require a specific background for the EP because they are being matched with an opportunity that requires specific knowledge. So if we have to find other EPs to replace this EP, it's going to take time for Isaac. So this is also to protect us from proceeding in finding a replacement or something like that. Please align this with your EPs so we won't have any type of frustration. Again, if an EP tells you, or if any opportunity provider tells you that they cannot host or go for an exchange in a certain time that is less than 28 for GV and 56 for any DT, they won't be liable for compensations in ISAC anymore. It doesn't matter the reason of the they're not being able to host or to go. That's it. Let's go for, I believe, the last topic, ICB and ECB, that is inside of the topic of governance system, that is super new inside of the documents. First thing is that ICB name changed from Internal Control Board. You can see the logo is still Internal Control Board to International Control Board. Two things I would like to say in here. First one, why we changed the name? Because while explaining it to an external, every time that we say Internal Control Board, can be entity level, it can be local level, it can be any type of level. And sometimes I, as ICB chair or my team leaders, they need to talk directly to the customers. And they still are asking us, no, I'm super pissed. I want to talk to the less level of the organization because I don't know. And they think that the less level of the organization related to their problems was going to be the PAI. But as we have per our documents, the board responsible and the last level of the organization to talk about quality process is the ICB. And it would, in this case, would be the ICB chair. But they don't understand that because what does the internal control board says? So we just change it for international control board. So it gives the proper explanation of the board. The second thing is why we are still using the internal control board logo, because we still don't have a new logo for international control board. I am working on it. So you can say International Control Board. You should say because this is the real name, and we're gonna change the logo soon. Second one, ICB proposed evolve to support the governance of the ISAC portfolio and ensure customer centricity by guaranteeing operational and ethical compliance in every ISAC activity. Before in an XPP, if you go for that, ICB was only responsible to ensure customer centricity in ISEC and ensure leadership fulfillment in every ISEC activity. So right now we and push a bit up the responsibility of ICB by governance of ISEC portfolio and operational and ethical compliance. ICB audit is updated and legislated. So we are going to work with auditing in a lot of levels, ICB and ECB, and also with the internal auditor level. ICB audit is legislated, and if you would like to understand how ICB is working with auditing, you will see that there are a lot of phases. We have a funnel. All the phases of the funnel are explained inside of the document, so you can prepare yourself if by any chance your entity is chosen to be audited by my team. And ICB survey will be downscaled per quarter, so we will downscale ICB survey for ECB's teams, and that's it. Let's talk about ECBs right now. I believe that the most people that are watching this are in LC's level or MC level. So probably you will talk more with your ECB than with us ICB. So that's why I'm going to focus more on this part of ECB, because you need to understand how this is going to affect your life with the new documents. ECB purpose evolved to body responsible for the governance and compliance of the ISEC portfolio internal policies and the arbitration of cases concerning exchange standards and ER principles of ISEC entities. So this is the same idea as my team in international level, but for an entity level. The ECB is responsible to guide the LCs and to make sure that the LCs are working and delivering the exchange in compliance with all the policies that we have in our documents. The ECBs are now accountable to ICB. What does it mean? It means that the ECB chair needs to submit quarter reports to ICB and their entity plenary with the performance of the board. If you are an LCP, you can expect your ECB chair to report for your plenary, for you in the case, with the performance of the board. And I can expect, as being ICB chair, that the ECB chair will report for me quarterly the performance of their role. ICB and MCP right now, they can dismiss an ECB chair following the dismissal of ECB's protocol. And if you're curious about that, just go to the document and you will see the dismissal of ECB's protocol. And all entities need to have an audit system established and performed by the ECB team. The audit must be done at least per quarter. Cool. And ECB chair needs to report the audit being performed to ICB quarterly. How this is going to affect your life? Your ECB chair will start having a lot of calls with my team for us to help them to enhance their process of auditing. Because some entities right now, they do have auditing process. Other entities, they don't have auditing process at all. And other entities, they have audit process, but they are more checking documents than actually performing and auditing. And what is the purpose for you to perform an audit? For you to check if all of your organization is complying with the policies. But there are some policies that are not actually related to documents check. For an example, documents check in an audit works a lot for you to check health insurance of your EPs, visa for your EPs, flight tickets, duration. But how are we going to track if the opportunity is related to one of the SDGs? If the EP is being supervised by an opportunity provider, if the exchange is like in the job description, or if in the delivery of the exchange, you are including inner and outer journey activities, for an example. These are the things that we're going to talk with the ECBs, and they will have to educate the LCs, and they will have to proceed with auditing to make sure that all activities in ISEC are being followed and are complying with the documents. This is going to affect you because from October on, all entities are supposed to have a piloting for auditing. That's it. But now talking about auditing, I'm not going to go deeper in here again because this is something that your ECB chair needs to talk to you. I will explain you how we intend, how it's our intention to work with auditing in ECB level and also with ICB level. All auditing in ISEC will be based in the compliance matrix. The compliance matrix is a new annex that we have in the APIP. What is the compliance matrix? It's an internal control system that contains possible violations of ISAC portfolio internal policies and its sanctions, in case any violation is identified and confirmed. The compliance matrix has the following objectives: ensure ISAC is proactive and acts in the best intention to protect its customers and stakeholders, ensure that ISAC entities are fair and aligned with the APIP, reduce the level of risk associated with the APIP. Those are the three main objectives. I think that they are very well explained, and I don't need to go deeper on that. So let's focus on the creation of the compliance metrics. How was the process for us to have this compliance metrics in the end? The creation process was, first thing that we did, we took a look in all of these parts of the document. So EWA principles, remote criteria, product principles, LLC, AEPP, everything that we have. And we identify the possible violations that could happen in every part of this process, because the auditing is not related to products. Remember, products, it's something inside of the ALD criteria. The audit that the ECBs will perform and the audit that ICB will perform is related to ISAC activities. ISAC activities, it's a whole new level. So remember that, it's important. That's why, for an example, we are adding in our audit process things related to brand, things related to platform policies, things related to EWA, to LLC. It's not only products, V, GE, and GV, GTA, GT. The violations criteria. Violations criteria. So for each part of the documents, like that I showed you, we identified the violations that could happen. So for each policy, there should be at least one violation associated. That was one of the principles of the compliance metrics. The violation can correspond to one or more of the following risks. So we defined global risks that can happen, and we have 5 in the end: risk of continuity, financial risks, performance risk, reputational risk, and legal risk. Once we identified all the violations that were happening in all of the part of our documents, we clusterized them in risks. Once we clusterized them in risks, we defined the level of severity of those violations. So if one violation was related to one risk, that violation has a level of severity number 1. If that violation is related to 3 different risks, the level of severity of that violation is level 3. There is only one exception that is related to the worst risk, let's say that is the risk of continuity. What is the risk of continuity? It's anything that you're doing in your organization that puts your LC or your MC in check. What do I mean by check? It's that it can affect the existence of your MC or your LC. If you're violating this, there is a high chance for your MC or for your LC to be closed. If we have one violation that is related to this risk, it goes automatically for level of severity number 5. If you are curious about what are all the violations, what are all the severities, and how we identify the risks of all the violations, you go for the annex of the compliance metrics. There is an amazing table that was super hard to create, but in the end, I believe that my team is super proud to deliver this. Cool, the sanctions criteria. Okay, Karina, I understand that we're gonna have ECB's level auditing right now, that my LC will be audited. I understand that your team is, as an international team, will audit my MC. And when I say my MC is actually the ECBs, because the ECBs will audit LCs, and ICB will audit the ECBs because we want to check their performance in auditing. What is gonna happen if it's identified that we have a violation in the documents? We have sanctions. Sanctions that are specific criteria to be applied. The sanctions are divided per level of severity and type of auditing, ECB or ICB. The sanctions for ICB and ECB level can be found in the annex section of this document. So inside of the compliance matrix, you will also see all the sanctions criteria and how can an ECB apply the sanctions, how can ICB apply the sanctions. The final responsible to apply the sanctions are the ICB chair and or the ECB chair, depending on the level of the audit. For ECB audits, the ECB chair is responsible to define the timeline of implementation of each sanction and how they will be applicable, taking into consideration the recommendation from ECCB. For ECCB audits, the sanction must follow the guideline written in the document, considering the criteria for the ECCB audit system. Just to give you an understanding of how this thing is important. If we have a violation level severity of number 5, that is the worst level of severity, the sanctions could be even freezing an entire MC or freezing an entire LC. What do I mean by freezing? All ICX operations are stopped. You cannot open new opportunities. You cannot approve new people until you fix your issue. This is the worst level of the severity because we don't want entities to stop working. And to be honest, I, as ICB chair, I wouldn't like to send an email for any MCP saying, hey, unfortunately, we are freezing your MC and you will not be able to perform on Expo until this issue is solved. I don't want to do that, but it depends. If I see any entity that is a level of severity number 5, that it's required to freeze the operation because they are representing a risk for the organization, this will have to happen. But this is level of severity number 5. If you're curious to see what are the other sanctions related to severity number 1 or 2, you can go to your ECB chair, or you can even go to the compliance matrix document. Amazing. We have the compliance matrix, we have the table, we have the sanctions, we have everything. How are we going to ensure that all of these things are going to work? And when I say ensure compliance, is not only performing the auditing, is how are we going to ensure that all of these new things that I'm talking since the beginning are going to be implemented in ISAC. First, the violations can be identified by the following process: submission of whistleblowing, complaints received in quality cases, local audit performed by ECBs, national audit performed by ICB, internal surveys, including but not limited to SOGA, GFP, and ICB survey. Those are surveys that they are more related to MCs and ECBs. And the compliance reporting. So those are the mechanisms that we are using to identify the violations. The compliance reporting, when we identify the violations, or if we don't identify, will follow this way. ICB will report on entities' compliance to the APIP through ICB quarter reports and the ICB reporting during ILMs. So I need to submit quarter reports for all the MCPs, and they will see the result of compliance of all entities based on the work of ECBs and the work of ICB, that is my team. And I also need to report for all the MCPs during international conferences, how is the compliance of all ISX related to our documents. For ECB level, the ECB will report on LC's compliance to the APIP through ECB quarter reports and the ECB report at national conferences. As I already mentioned, the ECB chair will have to report on for all the LCPs and also for the MC, what is the compliance of all LCs related to the policies in their quarter reports. And it's expected that the ECB chair show and also report a report of their board in their national conferences. So through a video, if they're internationals and they cannot go to the conference physically, if they can go to the conference, and these kind of things. Last one, but not least, for us to go to the questions, it's the last part of the call, the safety guideline plus coronavirus. This part is not new. We already have a safety guideline inside of the XPP, but we changed it a bit. And what you can see inside of this part, there are mandatory fields for contracts, and there is a protocol just for coronavirus. It's a temporary protocol, but we need to make sure that we are complying with it because, as you all know, I'm not living in a bubble, I believe. Coronavirus is not gone. We, instead of ignoring it, we need to learn how to deal with the crisis. We need to learn how to deal with everything. And ISAC is going back. So how are we going to make sure that everything that we are doing is complying with the policies, plus it's safe? We have a protocol just for that. And the last call of this education cycle will be protocol for coronavirus, plus everything that you need to know that you might change in your contract of your entity related to the new policies, because they are all new. And that's it. That was the introduction for the document. Oh my God, a lot of information. I've been talking in here for 1 hour, 10 minutes almost. Before going to the questions, because we have 20 minutes for questions, I would like to introduce you what is going to happen on the next calls. And as you know, this is the first call of the onboarding to APIP. We still have 4 more other calls for you to go. And tomorrow we have everything related to global volunteer. The next days we will have global talent and global teacher. It's not going to be with me, but it's going to be one person from the ICB. And the last one, I will be in the call, but it will be delivered by me and also my audit and compliance team leader for global safety protocol that are a lot of things related to contracts plus the coronavirus. What you will see in the next calls related to products, that will be an introduction. We are going to go deeper on product principles and minimums. So you can ask all the questions related to principles and minimums of products in the products call. General policies for OP and EP, policies before approval, remote feature protocol, if it's applicable. In this case, we're going to talk everything related to the remote feature protocol on the global talent and global teacher call on Wednesday and on Thursday. We're not gonna talk about that on Tuesday. Yeah, policies from approval to realization, from realization to completion, the finished realization earlier. We're gonna go deeper on details on the calls, extension protocol, then the governance system. We will mention that again, but the call for you to understand most of the things of the governance system was today, because I decided to go deeper on that because it's very new and we will impact you with the auditing. Complaints, so by the case solving flow, and questions and answers. This is what you can expect for the product calls. And the global safety protocol, that is the last call for us to close the education cycle, is an introduction, contract minimums per product, responsibility of MCs, responsibilities of send entity, host entity, and the coronavirus temporary protocol with operations adaptation, risk management, health management, and EP safety. That's what we will talk about during the whole cycle, and I hope that you like it. Let's go for your questions and answers now. Let me see what you're talking in the chat first. Who? Thank you, very informative, you're welcome. The presentation will be available, will also be recorded. I miss ACB Lua. We miss you too. Okay, cool. So I read everything in the chat for the Zoom. I will go on the questionnaires now. Here. We have some, that's cool. Let me just organize it. Cool. Can you explain more about the guideline and remote work for those products? Okay, this is not for me. This will be explained in the GTA and GTE call. So don't worry about that. If you didn't hear it today, it will be later on. Let me put the Zoom so you can see the questions. Cool. Why APIP? I believe that I explained that because until here, these questions were sent before the call. So why APIP? It's because we decided to divide into documents, one for our externals and one for internal. And APIP, it's everything that we have for external plus internal processes. This person I answered by email. What is the difference with XPPs? I believe that I explained it in the call. You can get the output of it and see the structure that it's divided by colors, the difference. What do you think about new goals? I don't know what you're talking about. What goals? If you're in the call, you can maybe type or say new goals. But if I have to answer something in here, it's about the new policies, the new minimums and principles. And for me, it's amazing because as I already said in the call, if I received everything when I was working in my LC, I would feel more guided and I would feel more comfortable to work with the products because I know exactly what I need to comply with And when I joined ISEC, I received my onboarding, I received my trainings and so on, but I didn't receive, hey, this is exactly what you need to do. The maximum that I got was like sort of an SOP, but at that time I didn't know the name of SOP. So each time the policies are updated, will the document be posted in the same Google Drive folder? With XPP, sometimes I struggle to find the latest version as not all information was fully centralized all the times. Okay, there is one folder with all the documents, but I do understand that there are a lot of folders around the world. Like people download the document and they upload in a folder and they started doing that in entities level, in MCs and so on. So what will happen is, if you have any difficulty to find the official document, you go to your ECB chair, because your ECB chair will receive the official Google Drive folder link from me as ECB chair, and I always receive this from ISEC International. So it will be updated in the same one. You will see all of the versions of the document. I think the latest version that we have is 2015 or 14. I'm not sure about that, but there are a lot. So you can ask it for your ECB chair and he will send you. If you're in ECB, you can ask me. Since membership will become a program once again, will APIP encompass governance in regard to membership experience as well? I cannot answer this question right now because this is still an internal project. So what happened? What I can answer about this is, the remote feature protocol was a project inside of ISEC International, and that we were working with AI in synergy with them to understand what we should add and change in the documents to make sure that we're gonna work with the remote feature in a proper way. Once they start actually working and having more clear clarity in how to work with this, probably we will have some kind of synergy. What we are working right now, for an example, is the local talent, and there is some sort of a synergy from ICB and ISEC International to make sure that how are we gonna put all of this in the documents, and if we need to put this in the documents. But you can expect something. If it's something official from ISEC, there should be policies inside of documents, yes. What is needed as compensation from the company if there is a realization break because the company cannot afford the intern anymore? This is a very specific question. I think that this question you can get the answer in the part of complaints or in the compensation table. But what is needed from the company if there is a realization break because the company cannot afford the intern anymore? If this is a bankrupt problem, because that is written in the policies that bankrupt is a possible reason for you to break a realization, you need to prove that it's true, that the organization went bankrupt. If you cannot prove that, unfortunately, the opportunity provider will have to cover the expenses, or if the opportunity provider don't cover the expenses, the responsibility will end to ICX, unfortunately. Based from these both documents, I see similarity between the AEPP and APIP regarding the rights for the EP or exchange program policies. May I know what is the difference between these documents? Is there any difference between in APIP or AEPP in terms of exchange program policies? No, everything that is on AEPP is inside APIP. As I said in the beginning, there is no difference. AEPP is a part of APIP. What the difference between the two documents is that APIP, you have AEPP plus internal processes. So everything related to exchange program policies on AEPP is inside of APIP. But if there is something inside of the exchange program policies that it's only for responsibilities for ISEC and it doesn't make a lot of sense for an external to know, then you will see only on APIP. That's different. What are the other official documents of ISEC order?
Where you start from? I left my wallet. Where you start from?
Mute yourself,
Come from here.
amazing
You are
Donna.
the come.
I can hear
You
you.
give a back. I the come.
I will. Mute you. Okay, cool. What is the other documents? Okay, the other documents that I can mention right now are the Global Compendium, for an example. The Global Compendium is the mother of all documents, the father of all documents, is the huge one that you can see many other things, not only the things that I'm talking in here, because my role today was to talk about everything
You give
related to
him
code.
test. Then I'll
So
give you.
in the
Yes, sir. I'll give you 21.
sorry guys, I muted the wrong person. Now I muted the right person. This is like all the policies that you need to know. How ISAC International works, the other global boards works, because we have a global finance board, for an example, a GFP. All the policies of ISAC, it's inside of the global compendium. We also have the code of ethics that is extremely important. The blue book is the part of a brand, and I guess that's it. There might be have more, but the ones that you should pay attention to are the main ones. That is APP, APIP, Global Compendium, Code of Ethics, Blue Book, and yes, I think that's fine for now. Is the responsibility of to audit MC activities? Is the responsibility to audit MC activities is for ECB or ICB? And what should ECB chair do if I found MEC doing some violations? Okay, it's none of them. The responsibility to audit MEC activities is the internal auditor of your entity. MEC activities, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but for example, finance of your MC, the way that your MC is working with the AR principles maybe, or this kind of things, it's not ICB responsibility to audit, either ECB. We have some, we are responsible to audit everything that is inside of the compliance matrix. There are some things related to MC activities, but it's not MC activities. For an example, to have an ECB chair, if I consider that an MC activity, I am the responsible to audit. Having the anti-harassment prevention committee, it's an MC activity and I'm responsible to audit that. But if you're talking about finance or if you're talking about other things, it's not. So it depends on what you're talking about, but I would say that in a summarized way, it's responsibility for the internal auditor. Now let me see, we have 5 more questions. When will the implementation of sanctions be effective? That's an amazing question. So the compensation, the applicability of the sanctions will be effective after February 2021. That is right after the IPM, International Presidents Meeting 2021. From nowadays until there, we are in a trial phase. We are understanding how to work with them. We are educating ECBs. We are changing some things internally in ICB to be able to perform with the audit itself. But sanctions will be applicable after IPM, that is February 2021. And the hosting entity charge an accommodation fee for IGT-EPs. I will let this question to be answered in the global talent call. Okay. Let me paint it in for the call. If the EP files a complaint report that she cannot go abroad due to non-ISAC related reason before 20 days, 28 days, or 56 days, can the EP get a reimbursement? If not, what are the days for? If an EP files a complaint report that she cannot go abroad before, yes, if it's before this certain time, they can get a reimbursement. They can get. If not, what are the days? If not, it's not. They can get a reimbursement if it's before that. If it's after that, they cannot. If you're still having any type of doubts of the reimbursement procedure, you go for the compensation table that is an annex. All the committees that charge TN fees will have to provide and cover accommodation for the EPs, because some of them right now don't do this. All the committees that charge TN fees, well, it's one of the minimums and principles for the project that For GV, it's mandatory for you to cover accommodation. So it doesn't matter if you're charging TN fees. If you're not charging TN fees, you cannot run GV if you're not covering accommodation. That's one of the big things. If you are running GTA or GTE, it depends on the duration of your GTA. The duration of your GTA, if it's short term, you can choose between accommodation or salary. If it's mid to long term, you need to pay salary, and the salary needs to be able to cover accommodation and living costs. For GTE, it's mandatory to have salary and cover accommodation and living costs. So for all the three products, they must have accommodation, and if not accommodation, a salary that the EP will be able to cover the accommodation with the salary. Will this information be available in some type of manual? Okay, so we already have the document. We are delivering the education cycle. By the end of August, we will have the education another education cycle focused on ECBs that will be very specific on topics that the ECBs need to know. And until the end of the year, until the sanctions will be applicable, our idea is to create a hub so you can get like quick videos related to topics of the document, and we can create some materials for you. I don't know if this answers your question, but I don't believe that we will have like one manual for everything, because the manual could be the document itself, but you can have a hub with some quick videos and questions and answers maybe. We plan to create that until the end of the year. The target for this part is until the sanctions are actually effective. I guess that's it. I will check one last time the chat in here to see if we have questions. Is there any template for a report? What report you're talking about, Sebastian? The report for ECBs, if it's about this, yes. Where could we find the APIP and AEPP? Someone sent the documents. Cool. What is the name of the YouTube channel? Someone answered. Amazing. And I have a private question. What is the time limit to be realized? How long should an EP not exceed to move on from approved to realized? And can an approval become invalid if it takes too long? We don't have policies for this. So we don't have, you can approve an EP to be realized further, but in the documents, we don't have policies for this right now. Maybe it's something that we can think of, but we don't. I guess that's it. We still have 5 minutes, but I don't have more questions in the forum. I don't have more questions here in Zoom. And that's all. You can get the output on YouTube. Yes, thank you so much for attending. And I hope that you get excited for the next calls. Bye-bye.